Hey, what's up guys, the Lone Top 10s here with another awesome video just for you. Countries are weird places, right? So much of our individual identities are tied to arbitrary lines on maps. Robert Anton Wilson said this: "Every natural border marks the place where two gangs of bandits got too exhausted to kill each other anymore and signed a treaty." Is that true? Well, maybe on our quest to find out more about a world, this week we've gathered some things about Uzbekistan. So here are the top 10 fascinating facts about Uzbekistan. First up, number 10. In the Muslim majority country, vodka is highly popular. Whoa, wait a minute. Vodka? That's alcohol. Muslims? I mean, come on. I thought you guys weren't supposed to be drinking that crap. Whatever. Anyway, let's go on to what we're supposed to be talking about. Now, Uzbekistan is one of the few places in the world where religious suppression under the Soviets gave way to more religious suppression, but with fewer gulags. While the nation was slowly become reacquainted with the Islamic faith, the religion is largely non-denominational. It's a mouthful, and it's kept under strict control by the government. The cultural influence of Russia predates communism quite considerably, extended back to before the Great Game with Britain in the 19th century. As such, it is quite common in Uzbekistan to find Russian influence in cuisine, particularly in the consumption of vodka, which is often served in teapots. And hint, if you want to know a little bit trivia, vodka is water in Russian. Something like that. Wine production is also a relatively resurgent force, with a winemaking pedigree that dates back to Alexander the Great before coming back into fashion in the last century. Alright, so, number 9. A lassie the size of Monaco was literally just discovered in Uzbekistan. The Chinese and Uzbeks have been collaborating since 2011 on an archaeological project along old Silk Road routes, and they just hit pay dirt. In Ming Tepe, in the Fargana Valley, which was previously thought to be merely a staging post for the Silk Road, has in fact been revealed to be found as a 2,000-year-old settlement. The people of those days were likely trained with the Han Dynasty, as the 1st century book of the later Han tells the Son of Heaven, on hearing all this religious, thus Fargana, or Dayan, and the possessions of Bactria and Parthia are large countries, full of rare things, with the population fixed or living in fixed adobes and given to occupations somewhat identical with those of the Chinese people, but with weak armies, and placing great value on the rich produce of China. Investigations are ongoing, but the excavation could reveal an ancient city of the Yuezhi people, the nomadic tribes that overthrew the Greco-Bactrian kingdom, which would make this location one of the earliest places where Eastern and Western cultures met. Just think about it. Number 8. Number 8 is Islam struggles with authoritarianism. Well, Islam and authoritarianism makes a good mix. However, I'm anti-authoritarianism. Just trust me. The government of Uzbekistan doesn't seem to have changed much since the days behind the Iron Curtain. The former president Islam Karimov started out as leader of the Communist Party and ruled for 4 terms, which was pretty impressive when you realize that the constitutional limit is just 2. Minor breaches of the law aside, Karimov was dead set on preventing Uzbekistan from forsaking the complete lack of public freedoms of a post-Soviet autocracy in favor of the complete lack of freedom provided by the ideology over the border in Afghanistan. I'm prepared to rip your heads off of 200 people in order to save peace and calm the republic. If my child chose such a path, I myself would rip off his head. Islam literally said this. Sounded like an utter villain. Of course, being an authoritarian dictator comes with such problems, like what to do with Islamic terrorists. During the hilariously unsuccessful War on Terror, Islam allowed multiple black sites for the United States' extraordinary redemption program. Relations with the West soured. However, when it emerged that in addition to handing over suspected terrorists to the CIA for torture and Guatemala, wait a minute, no, Guatemala, Guantanamo, Islam's regime was also born them alive. The issue the Uzbek people have is that their Muslim culture has been suppressed for so long. The country's beautifully designed 14th and 15th century buildings might have been preserved, but Uzbekistan has maintained a secular stronghold, leaving the door open for subversive and revolutionary Islamism to take root with the young. Number 7. Corruption is rife. I mean, Uzbekistan's really corrupt. I would highly recommend that none of you actually go to Uzbekistan. Anyway, one of the major issues with the Eastern Bloc countries was the high level of corruption. Uzbekistan takes their state corruption extremely seriously, more seriously than North Korea. I'm actually joking. As Amnesty International director John Del Hussein says, it's an open secret that anyone who falls out of favor with the authorities can be detained and tortured in Uzbekistan. Well, no one can escape the tendrils of the state. Transparency International ranks Uzbekistan as 156th out of 176 countries for corruption, with virtually every area of public life written with favoritism, bribery, and so on. Extortion by public officials is particularly common. You might expect such nefarious actions to extend to the very top, and you'd be correct. Parliamentary and presidential elections are regularly criticized for ballot stuffing and fabrication results, and Gunora Kamova, daughter of the former president, ran an extensive money laundering and corruption network that siphoned hundreds of millions of dollars out of the country. In most countries, you expect enterprising journalists to reveal such behavior. Okay, number 6. Freedom of the press doesn't even exist. In Uzbekistan, you have two choices. State-controlled media, like very similar to North Korea, or absolutely nothing. For example, while Gunora Kamova was happily fleecing every business she could get her hands on, the press were publishing puff pieces to clean up her image. Kamova's shenanigans were common knowledge. And according to leaked U.S. communiques, she was the country's most hated person. Within Europe, those cables in 2013, the news site usenews.net, now closed by the Uzbek authorities, published pieces distancing President Islam Karimov from his daughter as he dismantled her business empire, and reports emerged that the Uzbek secret police had Gunnar under house arrest. Good, I want that girl arrested. Imagine a society with some semblance of a free press in which those events occurred. Imagine that Chelsea Clinton had been arrested by the FBI and had been discovered defrauding the nation. Then imagine that nothing is heard for almost 3 years, and Chelsea is presumed dead, only to apparently resurface again, still under house arrest. The fact that news of this case is smuggled out in secret letters or by secret means with Swiss lawyers should give some insight into the state of the media, and that's without mentioning the 4 journalists still in Uzbek jails for criticizing the darn state. Something's gotta be wrong with Uzbekistan, you know that? Alright, anyway, number 5. Huge juicy melons. On a happier note, Uzbekistan is the world capital of melons. They have an excess of 150 different varieties, not rare ones in fact, which form a staple part of the local diet, served fresh into summer and eaten dry throughout the winter. According to the press office of Uzbek tourism, achievement mastery and melon cutting is a real thing that people do, as is judging whose melons taste the best. We would like to inform our readership that writing this entry without making double entities has become impossible, and it is therefore the shortest entry on this list, due to the writer becoming Jumba. We apologize unreservedly. Number 4. The legendary conqueror Tamerlane was born in Uzbekistan. In the West, we know relatively very little about Tamerlane, or rather, we are taught relatively little in comparison to the Mongol horde of Genghis Khan. Well, perhaps this is due to the fact that the Timurid Empire only lasted for 137 years and did not spawn successive empires. As a Turco-Mongolian, Tamerlane had found himself in a unique and challenging position during his rise to power. His Turkmen heritage in Islamic faith gave him some legacy with the Muslim world, and his Mongol lineage did the same on the side of the Great Hordes. However, as neither a direct successor of Muhammad nor Genghis Khan, Tamerlane needed subtle politics and myth-making to create his advantage. By claiming to be a protector of the member of the Chingsid line, that of Genghis Khan's eldest son, Jumshi, in reality a puppet, Tamerlane dodged the requirement of becoming a wand to rule. By circulating myths of his own divine performance, he played into the Muslim belief that military success came from Allah alone, and therefore Tamerlane was surely anointed in some manner. Remember, in Uzbekistan, as a folk hero and great conqueror, Tamerlane forged a huge multi-ethnic army, ostensibly under his self-styled banner as a sword of Islam. His career saw the defeat of the Knights Templar, the Second Adal, and the conquering of the fractured nation-states of Persia, and eventually led to his death while conquering the Ming dynasty. Tamerlane was in short a total Tamerlane was in short a total warrior. He also killed an estimated 17 million people and employed terror as a weapon, with no qualms whatsoever, once rebuilding several pyramids from the severed heads of 200,000 of his own subjects who are rebelled against his taxation. In such a way, Tamerlane is considered to be the founding father of systematic terror as a weapon of war. He could be the new Osama bin Laden if he wants. Well, alright. Number 3, double landlocked. Now, think about it. A double landlocked country is a landlocked country that is itself surrounded by landlocked countries. Uzbekistan is in Central Asia and is surrounded by Afghanistan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and Turkmenistan. As you need to cross at least 2 of those countries, Turkmenistan and Iran, or Afghanistan and Pakistan, to reach the coastline of the Arabian Sea. Uzbekistan is doubly landlocked. Time for penitentiary. It could be argued that, in fact, Uzbekistan is not landlocked at all, having the Aral Sea to the north. This argument is totally wrong. The Aral Sea is typically a saltwater lake and has no connection to the ocean at all, so Uzbekistan is truly a double landlocked country. Here's a pop quiz for the comments. Uzbekistan is one of only 2 doubly landlocked countries in the world. What's the other one? No search engines allowed. So, don't trust Google. Number 2. A massacre changed the course of the country, but no one really knows why. Alright, anyway, the Andijan massacre in 2005 was without a doubt a bloodbath. Beyond this, things get a little confused. What is known is that 23 businessmen who were members of an ostensibly peaceful Muslim group were arrested, allegedly for going too powerful and threatening government control. These men were promptly broken out of jail by armed fighters, and then on occupation at the time took place. According to the protesters, the standard form of living in Andijan was too low. The businessmen proposed a form of Islamic socialism, a high minimum wage, and job creation programs. Awesome! For the minimum wage, though. The government disagreed, and the army was instructed to move in, massacring an estimated 500 people. Some place a death toll as high as 1,500 people. The government claimed that the protesters were Islamist, but this appears unlikely, given the nature of the group in question. It had no history of violence, though, and no support for actual Islamic groups in Uzbekistan who advocated for an Islamic state. We may never know the truth, but U.S. President George W. Bush, George W. Bush denounced the repression, which in turn led to the closure of the U.S. Air Force's base at Kershi Khanabad, and strengthened ties between the Uzbeks and China and Russia. The support of these 2 countries head off an international investigation by the UN, and the true events of the massacre may never be revealed. Number 1. A hope for the future. Well, since late Islam is dead, Uzbekistan received its only second president since declaring independence in 1991, Shavkat, who comes from the Samarkand clan as his predecessor, could on no terms be described as a modernizer. However, taking power in a routine Soviet-style sham election, Shavkat was actually slacking the authoritarian grip the state has on Uzbekistan a tiny bit. After announcing an online port for Uzbeks to write with their concerns, well, that's it. Subscribe to this channel, like this video, see you guys.